Today we're going to talk about Southeast Asia and its physical geography. So take a look at these regions of Asia. There's one thing I was wrong about. It is that North Asia is actually a region. For years, I thought that there was no North Asia. Kids said to me, well, isn't there a North Asia? And I was like, no, there's no North Asia. There's a Russia, but there's no North Asia. I did some research and found out there is a North Asia. That's something I was wrong about. You might want to keep that in mind. So take a look at this. This is Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia we see is two main regions, okay? We've got the mainland Southeast Asia and the island Southeast Asia, okay? So many of you are kind of getting used to the idea of a region, that we have countries like Myanmar inside a big area, a big region of Asia. Asia continent, Myanmar, country, Burma, country. Okay, so we're getting used to that. All right, Southeast Asia is located in the east of the Indian subcontinent, south of China. It's divided into two areas: mainland Asia, or mainland Southeast Asia, and the island. So that's what you have to know. The nations of the mainland are Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. Myanmar is special because it is both on the mainland and on the island. Most people in the mainland live in river valleys between mountain ranges. There's your answer. So take a look at this map. This is called a population density map, and we see that population density means the amount of people per square mile. So if you take a look here, you see India right here in South Asia has got a ton of people per square mile. Let's take a look at Southeast Asia. There's not a lot of people except for right here. And this is going on a river valley that we call the Mekong River. And we're going to study that more in a week or so. Now, the largest of the island nations is Indonesia, and the biggest island in Indonesia is Sumatra. The smallest of the island nations is Singapore, and the Philippines is made up of 7,000 islands. So the nations of island Southeast Asia are Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Singapore. Malaysia lies partly on the mainland and partly on the island of Borneo. So let's take a look at the island nations. Here we have, so again, we have mainland, island nations. Taking a look at the Philippines, 7,000 different islands in the Philippines. Here's Malaysia, partly on this peninsula and partly over here as you labeled. This entire guy right here is all Indonesia, okay? Indonesia, underneath Asia. All right, so what do people do in Southeast Asia? Well, not a lot. They farm. In fact, farming accounts for 40% of the population works in agriculture, farming. So people are relatively poor in Southeast Asia, and they farm for the most part. In fact, most people practice subsistence farming. Subsistence farming is farming to survive. I like to think of this SU, farming to survive. Gosh, it's hard to write with, isn't it? That says survive. So people farming to survive is subsistence farming. Other people commercially farm, and they sell crops such as coffee, tea, sugarcane, and rice. Rice has been the main chief crop in Southeast Asia, and farmers use the paddy system to grow it. Okay, so what is a rice paddy? Let's take a look. You got to know that Indonesia and Thailand are the top producing rice countries in the world. So let's take a look at this. This is a rice paddy. So a rice paddy is basically a box. And you see that there are these walls right here where they flood this entire region. Southeast Asia has these things called monsoons where it rains for like 50 days straight. And it floods these walls in these little boxes. And as it floods, the farmers come and they pour tons of seeds into here. And eventually the water goes away because they go into their dry season, and then it floods and leaves behind this super fertile soil. And as the fertile soil takes the seeds, it grows rice. And in fact, it grows tons of rice. Take a look at this. This is a rice paddy right outside the city of Hanoi in Vietnam. And you see all these different boxes, and they are rice paddies. And here you have this one poor soul out here. He's responsible for all of this. Now, I don't know if he is or not. Here is the coolest rice paddy ever made, proving that aliens do exist. So, the island nations of Southeast Asia are a part of a thing called the Ring of Fire. And the Ring of Fire is a region of volcanoes and earthquakes surrounding the Pacific Ocean. Most of the island nations are actually the peaks of underwater volcanoes. So let's take a look at the Ring of Fire. So here is your Ring of Fire. It goes all the way around the Pacific Ocean, and everywhere you see a triangle here is a volcano. So the volcanoes exist and they create islands. So California is actually part of the Ring of Fire. All right, there are two climate regions in mainland Southeast Asia between Myanmar and Vietnam. They are tropical, wet, and dry, and they are humid, subtropical. On the west coast of Myanmar, the east coast of Vietnam, and most of the islands of Southeast Asia, there is a tropical, wet climate. Now, we're going to get into why there are tropical climates in this region in a bit, but I give you a hint, it's got to do with the equator. A tropical wet climate is hot year-round and has no dry season. So in this region, there are often violent storms called typhoons, which have high winds and heavy rains. So taking a look at the climate regions, we have tropical wet and dry right here. And so in this tropical wet and dry region, you're going to have way more like rice paddies, because they are going to actually have a dry season where those paddies can dry out and they can grow rice. If you've ever seen the movie Forrest Gump gets sent off to Vietnam, and he talks about how much it rained. And here is Vietnam, and you see that Vietnam's right on the coast, and they just have tropical wet, so it is constantly raining in Vietnam. Southeast Asia contains the second largest tropical rainforest region in the world. Rainforests contain a great variety of plant and animal life, and in Southeast Asia, rainforests are a source of lumber, medicines, and chemicals used in industry. So tropical rainforests once covered nearly all of Southeast Asia, but huge sections have been cut down to provide lumber and create farmland. Rainforests have a thin layer of topsoil, and when people clear the forest for farms, heavy rains often wash the topsoil away. So, the other resources of Southwest Asia include bamboo. And bamboo is like the best wood in the world. If you have bamboo floors, then you have a very expensive house. The Philippines is one of the world's largest suppliers of bamboo, rubber, oil, and natural gas. That concludes today's lecture on Southeast Asia physical geography. Be ready for a quiz.